This is All India Radio Mangalore. Dear listeners, in today's Talk in English program now, Dr. Vidya Saraswati, Associate Dean and Founding Faculty Advisor, Eco Club, Manipal College of Dental Sciences, Mahe Manipal, will speak on the topic Repen, Refuse, Reduce, Reuse and Recycle.
Namaste everyone. Today, I request you to spare a moment to contemplate on the following questions. How many pens do you use per month? Do you prefer single-use pens or refillable pens? Do you buy refillable pens and still throw them to the dustbin once the ink gets exhausted instead of using refills? Today, I wish to talk to you about something that we often take for granted, pens. More specifically, I wish to talk about the negative impact that single-use pens can have on our environment and how choosing to use refillable pens can make a difference. No doubt, writing is one of the best ways of communicating. Even in the era of digitalization, pens are still being preferred for many reasons. However, if we are not cautious, this preference may also lead to environmental issues. As we know, the term carbon footprint refers to the total amount of greenhouse gas emissions that gets generated at the end of life of a product or service, its production and use. Lack of awareness on the carbon footprint and accountability on waste production has all added up to polluted land, sea and air, and therefore our environment as a whole. Due to the ease of use and minimum difference in the cost factor, single-use pens are becoming more popular than reusable pens, thus increasing the plastic buildup. Millions of pens are being used and thrown into the dustbin when ink gets exhausted, thus increasing the carbon footprint. Considering the impact of plastic waste generated on the carbon footprint, it is more prudent to encourage people to opt for reusable pens. Now, you may be thinking that the impact of a single pen is minimal, and in isolation, that is true. However, when we consider millions upon millions of pens that are being used and discarded every year, the impact becomes much more significant. Let me share a few interesting facts about pens. According to a study conducted in the year 2014 on industry analysis of the stationery sector in India, the market for pens in India is estimated at 1.2 to 1.4 billion pieces a year and is growing at 8% to 10% annually. Various types of pens are available to consumers, right from roller pens, fiber tip pens, marker pens, fountain pens, gel pens, and ballpoint pens. However, gel and ballpoint pens are the ones that are more popular. Gel pens occupy about 44% share and ballpoint pens about 54% share of the total market. Ballpoint pens are available for various prices depending on the brand and the quality. One can get a ballpoint pen right from 2 rupees to a few thousand rupees. However, if we categorize the MRP according to the price range, we can infer that approximately 52% of the sales come from pens that are available for less than rupees 5 and rupees 5 to rupees 10 price range contributes to 33% of sales. Out of the total ballpoint pen consumers, majority are children with 40%, adults are about 34%, and 25% are teens. Further, in residential areas, children form a major part of the consumers, while in commercial areas, adults form a major part. The different parts of one-time use ballpoint pens are made from different materials. Most components use plastic and therefore are as bad as plastic bags, bottles, and straws. This is especially due to the fact that pens are used in the same way as previously mentioned items, used and then thrown. The exterior barrel in most of the pens is made of an inferior and toxic type of plastic called polystyrene. Polystyrene is a plastic resin made from a toxic chemical called styrene. Styrene is considered as one of the 100 most hazardous chemicals. It has very bad health effects on workers who are exposed to this chemical during manufacturing. In 1986, the US Environmental Protection Agency released a report that listed the polystyrene manufacturing process as the fifth largest source of hazardous waste. The caps might be made of polypropylene, which is a safe plastic and recyclable, but it is so small in size that it can potentially clog the regular recycling machines. Plastic pens are very difficult to recycle, and this facility is now available only in few countries. Plastic is cheap, but we need to remember it is made from petroleum, and petroleum is a non-renewable resource. Also, we should be aware that the pens we discard may sit in landfills potentially for hundreds of years before they break down. In the meantime, they can leach harmful chemicals into the soil and water, posing a risk to the environment. In addition to the environmental impact of the pens themselves, there is also the issue of carbon emissions that are created during their production, transportation, and disposal. The production and transportation of pens and packaging materials, like manufacturing processes of many other commodities, require energy and resources, generating additional carbon emissions. All these emissions contribute to climate change, which is one of the biggest threats our planet is facing today. At 2.4 ton carbon dioxide equivalent, India's per capita greenhouse gas emissions were far below the world average of 6.3 ton carbon dioxide equivalent in 2020, according to a new report released by the United Nations Environment Programme. However, it is expected that carbon dioxide emission is likely to increase by 6% in India this year, and it is a matter of concern that India is one of the world's biggest carbon dioxide emitters, behind only China and the United States. It was reported that the average carbon footprint for a person in the United States is 16 tons, one of the highest rates in the world. Globally, the average carbon footprint is closer to 4 tons. To have the best chance of avoiding a 2 degree centigrade rise in global temperatures, the average global carbon footprint per year needs to drop to under 2 tons by 2050. So what can we do to reduce the environmental impact of pens? The 4 R's: refuse, reduce, reuse, and recycle. I repeat, refuse, reduce, reuse, and recycle make for a simple yet effective way to combat the plastic menace. Refuse single-use pens and opt for more sustainable pens like refillable or ink pens. Reduce buying new pens, instead use refilled pens. Reuse pens with refills, or still better, use ink pens with organic inks. Recycle defective pens for making art and craft. There are many creative ways to recycle damaged pens and use refills. One can make pen stands, lampshades, and more such artifacts. Extensively damaged pens should be donated to recycling plants to avoid landfills. Many centers have programs in place for right method of disposing these items and turning them into new products. Not only that, refillable pens are better for the environment, they can also save you money in the long run. While the initial cost of a good quality refillable pen may be higher than a single-use pen, the cost per use is much lower. Here are a few simple behavioral changes that we can make to ensure that we are using refillable pens as much as possible. Choose a good quality pen even though it costs you higher. This way you will be careful not to lose this pen. Buy pen along with additional refills. This will help you to refill immediately without opting to throw away the pen. Also, it will save you the time running to the stationery shop every time when ink gets exhausted. Minimize distribution of pens in meetings and conferences. If it is unavoidable, consider using refilled pens. Keep a box of refilled pens. A person in need of a pen can pick one from this box. Be cautious not to throw away refillable pens as we tend to do so when the ink gets exhausted. Donate excess pens. Sensitize your near and dear ones, also the public, about the cause. Habits inculcated during childhood stay for a lifetime. Therefore, parents and teachers must inculcate in children the habit of 4 R's: refuse, reduce, reuse, and recycle in order to contribute for a better future. We at Manipal College of Dental Sciences, Manipal, have introduced a project that we call RePen with an objective of encouraging the use of refillable pens, thus reducing production of plastic waste. We arrange activities to sensitize people and share ideas to recycle empty plastic refills and damaged pens as raw materials for crafts. We take the help of social media to spread the message to masses. I am proud to say Manipal Academy of Higher Education, which has been recognized as an institute of eminence by the Government of India, has a policy of buying only refillable pens for the use at university office and constituent units, adding one more to the list of many green initiatives the university has taken so far. Now, I know that switching to refillable pens may not seem like a big deal on its own, but every small action we take to reduce our environmental impact adds up. After all, a small change can make a big difference. By choosing refillable pens, we can contribute substantially towards a fight against climate change and shift from harming our planet to taking steps towards healing it. In conclusion, single-use pens have a significant environmental impact due to their non-biodegradability, carbon emissions from their production, transportation, and disposal. By switching to refillable pens, we can reduce the number of pens that ends up in landfills, leading to rise in carbon footprint and also save money. By making few simple behavioral changes and choosing to follow refuse, reduce, reuse, recycle policy, we can reduce the negative impact on the environment and do our part to protect the planet. Every action counts. After all, tiny droplets of water make the mighty ocean. Thank you for listening. Jai Hind.
Dear listeners, you have just heard Dr. Vidya Saraswati speaking on the topic RePen, refuse, reduce, reuse and recycle. This talk came to you from the studios of All India Radio Mangaluru.